We live in a world where a like, a comment, or a view has become the currency of our self-worth. We post a picture, we wait. We share an idea, we hope. We take a step, we look around to see who's clapping. And when no one is clapping, we stop walking. Somewhere along the way, we've convinced ourselves that unless someone approves of what we're doing, it must not be good enough. But here's the truth that's hard to swallow. Seeking constant validation is the fastest way to lose sight of what actually matters. We weren't born this way. Children don't need applause to explore. They don't wait for permission to be curious. They just act. They chase butterflies, they build towers out of blocks, they ask endless questions, not because anyone told them to, but because it's in their nature to wonder, to create, to pursue what excites them. The need for external validation creeps in later when we start learning that praise is a reward and silence is a punishment. But the most meaningful work in life isn't always loud. It doesn't always get likes. In fact, often the work that matters most is done in silence. Think about the greatest thinkers, inventors, artists. They didn't show up to be liked. They showed up because they believed in something bigger than themselves. They acted from a deep sense of purpose, not a desire for applause. And that's the difference. When you act from purpose, you build resilience. When you act for validation, you build dependence. And dependence is fragile. Because the moment people stop clapping, you stop moving. You begin to shrink, you begin to doubt, you begin to pull back, not because your work isn't valuable, because it wasn't immediately validated. The irony is that the world doesn't need more people chasing applause. It needs more people who are willing to show up consistently, even when no one's watching. It needs people who do the hard, unglamorous work, people who stay true to the mission, not the metrics. And that kind of consistency, that kind of purpose, can't be built on the shifting sands of external approval. So why do we chase validation? Because it feels good. It's a quick hit of dopamine. It's addictive. But that high wears off, and then we need more of it to feel worthy. We check our phones, refresh our inboxes, reread old comments, hoping to feel seen again. And while we're busy doing that, we're not building anything. We're not growing. We're just reacting, hoping someone somewhere will give us a reason to keep going. What if instead of chasing validation, we chased truth? What if we measured our days not by the feedback we received, but by the effort we gave, by the integrity we held? What if we showed up and did the work simply because it was the right thing to do, not because it would make us popular? The people who make the biggest impact aren't always the ones in the spotlight. They're the ones in the trenches doing the work that matters even when no one is clapping. They're the ones who stay late, who ask better questions, who challenge the status quo not to be noticed, but to make things better. They're not waiting for permission to lead. They're not waiting for likes to speak. They know who they are, and they act from that place, not from the fear of being ignored. I get it. It's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there and hear nothing back. It's hard to show up again and again when it feels like no one cares. But the truth is, people are watching. Just not always the people you think. Someone is paying attention. Someone is being inspired by your consistency, by your courage, by your refusal to quit. You don't always get to see the impact you're making, but that doesn't mean it's not real. Imagine what you could build if you stopped waiting for applause. Imagine what you could create if you trusted yourself enough to keep going. The applause will come, or it won't, but either way it's irrelevant, because you're not doing it for that. You're doing it for the mission, you're doing it for the people who need what only you can give. You're doing it because you can't not do it. That's the shift. Celebrated. From performing to serving. From chasing praise to pursuing purpose. And when you make that shift, everything changes. Your anxiety quiets down. Your vision sharpens. Your sense of self solidifies. You stop bending yourself to fit what others want, and you start standing tall in what you believe. You stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, is this useful? Is this true? Is this what I was made to do? And that's not arrogance, that's clarity. Clarity isn't loud, it's steady. It doesn't need applause to breathe, it just needs action. Quiet, consistent, purpose-driven action. So the next time you catch yourself refreshing a feed, checking for comments, rereading feedback, hoping to feel seen, pause Breathe. Remind yourself why you started in the first place. Remind yourself that your worth doesn't increase with likes and it doesn't decrease with silence. And it just is. And from that place, that steady place, get back to work. Because the world doesn't need more people performing. It needs more people showing up with purpose. It needs more people like you, but only if you stop waiting for them to clap. This trap that almost all of us fall into, it looks like effort. It feels like movement, but it gets us nowhere. We fill our calendars, check off tasks, answer emails, sit in meetings, shuffle papers, stay up late, and we call it work, we call it progress, we call it productivity, but deep down, we know something's missing. Something important. Because busy doesn't always mean useful. Motion isn't the same as progress. It's the difference between doing a lot and doing what matters. And most people don't burn out from working too hard. They burn out from working on the wrong things, from filling their days with low-impact tasks that look impressive but move nothing forward. It's easy to mistake being busy for being valuable. We've built a culture that rewards hustle, even if it's aimless. We praise the person who replies fastest, not the one who thinks deepest. We admire the full schedule, not the clear intention. But at the end of the day, if all your effort leads nowhere, does it even count? We confuse action with intention, and that's dangerous. Because when we don't stop to ask why we're doing something, we can spend years climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. We optimize systems that shouldn't exist. We refine tasks that never needed to be done in the first place. And we wonder why we're exhausted and unfulfilled. We live in an age where being productive has become a performance. There's almost a pressure to look overwhelmed, as if that somehow proves our importance. But there's nothing admirable about being busy for the sake of being busy. True leaders, true builders, don't confuse effort with effectiveness. They stop. They reflect. They ask better questions. They don't just do more. They do what matters most. Ask yourself, how much of your day is spent on things that actually move the mission forward? Not things that keep you occupied, not things that impress others, but things that truly create value. It's a tough question because it forces us to get honest, and honesty is uncomfortable. It means admitting that some of the things we've clung to are distractions in disguise. It means recognizing that maybe we've been working hard on the wrong problem. And here's the uncomfortable truth. We often fill our time with busy work to avoid the work that really scares us, the deep thinking, the bold decision, the honest conversation, the creative leap, the silence. Busy work becomes a shield. It gives us the illusion of control, of contribution, of movement. But the most important work often isn't visible. It's not urgent. It doesn't come with a notification or a deadline. It requires courage, not just stamina. There's a reason why some of the most powerful breakthroughs come in stillness. Clarity doesn't shout. Insight doesn't live in the noise. It comes when we pause long enough to ask, what's the real problem here? What's the goal? What truly matters? These aren't questions you can answer while multitasking. They require depth. They require space, but most of us are too busy to make room for them. And yet, the people who make a real difference in the world aren't the busiest. They're the most focused. They know what to say no to. They're not afraid to disappoint in the short term, to stay aligned in the long term. They don't need to be everywhere because they know where they're needed most. That kind of clarity doesn't come from doing more, it comes from choosing better. So how do we stop wasting time on busy work? We start by redefining what productivity means. It's not about how many tasks you complete, it's about how much value you create. It's not about being the first to respond, it's about being the one who sees clearly. It's not about volume, it's about direction. Real productivity begins with purpose. When you know your why, your what becomes clearer. When you understand the mission, you stop mistaking motion for momentum. Every task becomes a choice. Every decision becomes a filter. Does this help me serve the mission? Does this solve a real problem? If not, maybe it's time to stop doing it, no matter how satisfying it feels to check it off. Leaders, creators, dreamers, You weren't made to be efficient machines. You were made to build, to solve, to connect, to lead. That kind of work is messy, it's unpredictable, it's not always fast, but it's real, and it's worth it. Don't let the pressure to look busy pull you away from the work that truly matters. You can always fill your day. The world will give you 1,000 tasks if you let it. But you only have so much energy, so much focus, so much life. Spend it wisely. Spend it on things that leave a mark. Spend it on work that makes someone's life better. Spend it on the kind of work you'll be proud of, even if no one sees it. Because at the end of the day, the people who create real change aren't the ones who check the most boxes. They're the ones who built something that mattered. They're the ones who stopped long enough to ask better questions. They're the ones who knew that being useful is always more important than being busy. So pause, breathe, zoom out. Look at your day, your week, your month. Are you making noise or are you making progress? Are you spinning wheels or are you moving forward? Don't confuse the two, because your time is too precious to spend it looking productive. You were meant to be productive. In the true sense of the word, you are meant to build what matters. We tell ourselves we're being careful. We call it preparation, due diligence, being responsible, but in reality we're stuck in our own heads, stuck replaying possibilities, stuck analyzing every outcome, every angle, every variable, and doing nothing. We disguise our fear as strategy. We hide behind research. We overthink. Not because we're searching for truth, but because we're avoiding risk. And that, right there, is the real danger. Because while we're busy trying to make the perfect decision, we make no decision at all. Overthinking is a clever enemy. It whispers all the right things. Just a little more information. Wait for the timing to be right. Think it through again, just in case. And before we know it, we've built a fortress of hesitation around ourselves. We've confused clarity with certainty. But clarity doesn't always show up fully formed. Most of the time, it reveals itself through movement. You don't get confidence first and then act. You act first, and confidence follows. The people we admire most, the ones who built something meaningful, who led others, who sparked change, they didn't have perfect plans. They had conviction. They had a willingness to move. They didn't wait until every piece was in place because they knew it never would be. They started when it was uncomfortable, when the path was unclear, when the risk was real. Because they understood something most of us forget. Momentum matters more than mastery. Overthinking is a form of resistance. It tells us that if we just wait a little longer, we'll feel more ready. But readiness is rarely a feeling, it's a decision. A mindset. The truth is, you don't need more time, you need more trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in your instincts. Trust that if you get it wrong, you'll learn something, and that lesson will be more valuable than any amount of speculation. We don't learn by standing still. We learn by doing, by experimenting, by making a move and watching what happens. Yet we treat every decision like it's permanent, like it will define us forever. It won't. Most decisions aren't final. Most can be adjusted, refined, reversed. But you can't adjust a decision you never made. You can't steer a car that isn't moving. Action is where clarity lives. Action reveals what thought alone can't. You can plan for months and still miss the mark. Or you can move today and learn in hours what thinking couldn't teach you in weeks. The longer you sit with a decision, the heavier it feels. Not because it's more complex, but because you've let fear grow in the silence. And fear always fills the space where courage should have spoken. You want to build something meaningful, then get comfortable with imperfect action. Not reckless, not thoughtless, but imperfect, because perfect is a myth. It's a moving target that keeps you paralyzed. It's the reason dreams die in notebooks, why ideas collect dust, why teams stall. Perfection is the enemy of execution. And overthinking is its accomplice. The world doesn't need more perfectly laid out plan. It needs more people willing to take the first imperfect step. It needs people who say, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm going anyway. That's how innovation happens. That's how leadership happens. That's how change begins. The mistake we make is thinking every decision defines us. But most decisions are just steps, not destinations. One choice doesn't write your whole story. It just turns the page. If it's the wrong page, turn again. But don't stand there holding the pen, afraid to write a word. And it's not just personal either. Organizations do this. Teams do this. We gather in meetings, we debate endlessly, we avoid risk under the banner of analysis, we drown good ideas in process. And while we're doing that, someone else is out there testing, failing, iterating, learning, winning. Speed matters, not speed at the cost of thoughtfulness, but speed at the cost of fear. Make the decision, launch the project. Have the conversation, start the thing, because doing leads to discovering, and discovery will always teach you more than theory. We think the goal is to be right, but it's not. The goal is to grow, and you grow by doing. The irony is, the longer we overthink, the more we convince ourselves the risk is growing, when actually the real risk is doing nothing. The risk is staying stuck. The risk is becoming someone who talks about potential but never lives it. The risk is reaching the end of a year or a decade or a lifetime and realizing you were too careful with your own gift. If you want to lead, you have to move. People don't follow hesitation, they follow motion, they follow courage, they follow clarity, even if it's still a little messy. Leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about having enough conviction to go first, to try, to learn, to adjust, to keep going. So what are you overthinking right now? What's the decision that's been sitting in your mind waiting for the right moment? Here's something most people won't tell you. There is no right moment. There's only now. And now is enough. Now is where everything starts. Not because you're fully ready, but because you waited long enough. You've thought enough, you've prepared enough, you've doubted enough. It's time to trust, it's time to move, because the only way to get unstuck is to take a step, and even if it's the wrong one, it's still better than standing still, because at least now you're in motion, and motion beats overthinking every time. We don't start out comparing. No child looks around the playground wondering if they're running faster than the others. They run because it feels good to run. They climb because they're curious, not because someone else is climbing higher. But somewhere along the way, we're taught to measure ourselves against everyone else. We're told to keep up, to compete, to watch what others are doing. And suddenly, the joy of running gets replaced by the pressure to win a race we never agreed to run. Comparison is subtle. It's not loud. It sneaks in quietly. You scroll through your feed and see someone landing a promotion, launching a business, traveling the world, buying a home. And before you even realize it, your brain isn't celebrating their success. It's using it as a measuring stick for your own worth. We look at where they are, and instead of being inspired, we feel behind. But behind what? According to whose timeline? That's the thing. We never stop to ask where this imaginary race is even going. We just run faster. We push harder. We tell ourselves we're late, that we've missed something, that we're not doing enough. And in all that noise, we forget the most important thing. Our path is not their path. Our pace is not their pace. And that's not a weakness. It's the very thing that makes our journey